This is Brian from Three Legged Thing, and in this video I'm going to tell you why I've just bought this. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. I don't often do gear related videos, but I thought I'd do one related to this, my new tripod. I'll just say, if you enjoy this video and maybe you want to check out some of my other stuff, but please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you very much. And of course, I hope you enjoy this video. This is a new tripod. It's just arrived today. It's made by a British company called Three Legged Thing. Three Legged Thing certainly seem to be getting a good name for themselves, and they certainly seem to take the quality of their products very seriously. But they certainly seem to have a bit of fun with their names and their marketing. This tripod is part of their Punks range, and it's called Brian. And if I needed any further evidence that Three Legged Thing is a British company, I've only got to go and look at their website, their webpage for this particular tripod and spot the Monty Python references. Only a British company would do that, I'm sure. So, as I said, this has literally just arrived today. So this is not a proper review of the tripod. In a little while I want to give my first impressions on this now that I've actually got my hands on it. But obviously it's going to take a little bit of time for me to take it out in the field, use it, before I can really give my opinions on it. But certainly first impressions. But first I wanted to just share with you why I've chosen to buy a new tripod. And to do that, I'm going to have to look at my previous tripod. Okay, so this is what I've been using for the last 4 years. It's a Manfrotto. It's the 055 CX Pro 3, I think. That sounds about right. With the X Pro magnesium ball head. And as I said, I've been using this for the last 4 years, and I've used it a lot. I mean, it goes out 2-3 times a week. It's been in the sea, in rivers, buried in sand, jammed into rocks. You know, it's been abused, and it's held up to everything pretty well up until recently. And it's quite a large tripod, and it's very solid and very stable. It's carbon fibre, so although it's quite big, it's not massively heavy. With the ball head on, I think it weighs in at a little over 2.5 kilos, so a bit over 5.5 pounds, which isn't bad for a tripod of this size. And as I say, I've actually been pretty happy with it for most of the last 4 years. But over the last few months, I've started to have a few problems with it. And those problems have started up here at the top. So this tripod has an Arca Swiss compatible mounting. And that's certainly what I normally would recommend that people look for with a tripod and a plate, Arca Swiss, because they're so interchangeable with different types of gear. A lot of Arca Swiss type mountings are just like a vice with a groove in it, basically. But the Manfrotto one has this kind of spring loaded clip here. So in order to put the camera in, you push it in, this spring clip goes back and then pops back out into the groove, which loosely holds the plate in place, and then you tighten up and that clamps it in solidly. And to release it, you loosen this off and then you press this button which pulls this plate back. And the problem that I've had with this is basically this plate sticks. Quite often it sticks out, which means you can't actually get the camera in without a lot of messing around, and sometimes you can't get the camera off without a bit of messing around. And other times it's actually stuck in, which is even more fiddly because you have to try and get something in there to lever it to pop it out. So that's been a bit of a pain. The other problem I've been having with this recently is with the ball head, and basically it's sticking. No matter what I do with the tension adjustment, sometimes it basically almost locks up and you can hardly move it. You have to put a lot of force into it to get it moving, and it's never really smooth and loose like it should be, no matter how much I adjust the tension. The third issue I've been having recently is with these locks here. Now these are the ones that you release to push the legs up at different angles, and the problem is sometimes they don't release, and when they do release sometimes you can't get them to go back in again. So again, sometimes it involves a bit of work trying to get them to lock where you want them to. Now all of those things have been a inconvenience over recent months, but not too bad. But recently I've started having problems with these leg locks. Now these are lever type locks, so when you close them it pulls a bolt through that clamps this collar down and tightens onto the leg and stops it from sliding in and out. And I've actually always liked this style because you can visually check that the locks are engaged. If they're in, they're engaged. But the problem that I've been having with this now is these locks have started to get loose. It should require quite a bit of effort to actually pull these open. If I just put my little finger on there and just, that's all it's taking. That's a tiny, hardly any pressure at all. And that's happening basically to some degree on every single one of these locks. And this one is the worst because sometimes this one won't even close at all, like this. Sometimes, yeah, sometimes it won't close at all. There, it's closed now, but it just pops open. Now, this is a much bigger problem, and I've recently had two occasions to really regret this. The first one was a couple of weeks ago when basically this leg lock released, the tripod fell over, and I ended up smashing my circular polarizer and my 6-stop ND filter. The second one was on actually my last trip out. I was at a place called Enchanted Gorge. The tripod was strapped to my rucksack, as it is when I'm walking around, and the leg lock came undone. The leg had come out. I hadn't realised that. At the time I was climbing down a steep rocky slope. The tripod leg, or the foot of the tripod, basically wedged into some rocks, and it basically caused me to fall over. Fortunately I managed to catch myself on a small tree, and I didn't go tumbling 15-20 feet down a steep rocky slope, which would have been bad. But obviously I couldn't carry on with that particular situation. Now I've tried adjusting these, because you can adjust the tension, but that hasn't made any difference, and I've ended up actually taking these mechanisms apart to have a look and see if I can figure out what the problem is. And basically the issue is that what holds them closed is the shape of the cam and the shape of the recess in which that cam sits. And basically both the cam and the recess have started to basically wear away, so they no longer have a defined enough shape to hold these legs closed. Now I could have bought replacements for all of these. 6 leg locks, levers, the little collars that sit inside, but to be honest, that wasn't going to be cheap. That was going to cost probably half of the price, more than half of the price of actually buying a new set of tripod legs of the same type as this. And that was still going to leave me with problems with these latches, problems with the ball head sticking, and problems with this. So I decided I would look at buying an alternative tripod. I spent probably a day on the web reading reviews, looking at specifications and trying to work out what I was going to do. I decided that if I was going to buy a new tripod, I was going to try to make my life a bit easier in some ways by having one that was a little bit more portable. As I said, the Manfrotto isn't that heavy really, but it doesn't collapse up all that small. So that 2.5 kilos, or just over 2.5 kilos, of which over half a kilo is the actual head. It's got quite a lot of kind of force that it can apply when it's strapped onto a rucksack, either on the back or on the side. It's pulling quite a lot. So I decided I wanted to go for something a bit smaller and a bit lighter. Obviously, that's a little bit of a gamble in some ways, because smaller and lighter equals not stable. Obviously, in landscape photography, all tripods are a compromise, because when you're shooting, you want the biggest, heaviest, most solid tripod possible. But when you're carrying it around, you want the smallest, lightest tripod you possibly can. And I decided to go for this tripod. As I said, it's by Three Legged Thing, it's their Punks range, and it's called Brian. And I've literally just opened the package today and got it out. I'm not doing an unboxing. I'll just say it came, fully assembled with the head on. It comes with a little tool and a carabiner for adjusting it. It comes in a bag that you can use to carry it around, which I won't use. It will be strapped onto my rucksack whenever I'm not physically using it. But initial impressions are pretty good. It's carbon fibre. It's obviously considerably smaller than the Manfrotto, and it's quite a bit lighter. This weighs in at less than 1.5 kilos, so it's a kilo and a bit lighter, so nearly 2.5 pounds, 2.3 pounds lighter than the Manfrotto. Carbon fibre, it's got 4 leg sections instead of 3, which obviously helps to give it height when it's extended, but keeps it pretty small when it's collapsed. And instead of the lever locks, it's got twist locks. And that was an area that I debated quite a lot, but I've decided to go for twist locks because they are more compact, and they're much less likely actually to get bashed and damaged when when the tripod's in use in rough terrain, or when it's on a rucksack or whatever. So I've decided to go for those. It's light and compact, but it feels good. The quality on it feels good. It feels nice and nicely made, and it's got some nice attention to detail. One of the things that I definitely wanted to make sure I had was a little bubble level on the actual tripod itself for shooting panoramas. It's got that, and the head, although the head is actually quite small, it seems very well made. And again, it's got the Arca Swiss compatible plate, but this one is the simple vice style. So you loosen it up, put the tripod plate in and close it up. And this will work with my L bracket and with all the other plates that I've got, because all of my plates are Arca Swiss. So I said this is small. In fact, it's designed as a travel tripod, and one of the things you can do if you want to for travelling is you can actually take these legs and invert them 180 degrees, and if the knobs and the thing weren't in the way, with a bit of adjustment, it folds up even smaller to fit in a bag or whatever for travel purposes. I probably won't use that feature. Normally it will sit on my rucksack in its normal configuration for transport, so kind of like that. Okay, so this is the tripod with all of the leg sections extended, and basically with the camera on top. Actually, that would put the camera pretty much dead on my eye height, and that's actually pretty tall for a tripod that packs up that small. There is a neat trick on this one that if you really do need extra height, you can extend the center column, as you can with most, and you can extend the second part, and it's now, as you can see, it's gone actually right out of the frame of the video. This extends up to something like 74 inches. Can't remember what that is in millimeters or centimeters, but obviously if you extend the center column that much, it's not going to be as solid and stable, but it's an option if you need it. With the center column down, I mean, I'm on level ground at the moment, but that feels pretty solid, pretty sturdy. There is a hook underneath on the bottom of the center column, which you can hang the camera bag off or some kind of weight off to increase stability in windy conditions. The head has two adjustment controls. One of them unlocks the ball head and lets you move that around, and the other one releases the panning motion, which feels lovely and smooth. Really nice. There's no rattle or anything in there. That's nice. The other thing you can do with this is you can take the center column out and reverse it, so you can actually have the camera hanging underneath upside down, which is useful for macro. I don't do that, so I probably won't use that feature. Or you can take the center column out and actually fix the head straight onto the top of the legs just here, which basically means you can get the camera down to just a few inches off of the ground if you need to. I suspect I will be using this with the center column in place most of the time, simply because I very rarely find it's necessary to get that low to the ground, and you can get pretty low even with the center column in place. And I like the flexibility of being able to lift the center column if I need to, particularly when I'm shooting on uneven ground where I might have one or two legs extended down a hill, and that obviously limits the actual height of the tripod overall. But this feels pretty good. Okay, that's my introduction to Brian. So far, I'm happy with my purchase, and it looks really good, it feels nice, and it seems stable and solid. But the real proof will be when I get it out and I start doing some photography with it, which I will be doing as soon as I possibly can. So over the next 2 or 3 weeks, this is going to be my tripod that I'm using, and I may make a few references to it in upcoming videos about how it's performing, but then in sort of 3 weeks time, something like that, I might actually do a full review giving my impressions of using it, hopefully in a variety of different situations and conditions. This is my new tripod. Fingers crossed I've made a good choice. So that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Something a bit different. As I said, I don't do gear stuff very often, but I thought it was worth it in this case. And like I say, if you want to find out how I get on with Brian over the next few weeks, just keep tuning into the channel. And if you subscribe, well, tuning in becomes that much easier. Likes and shares, always appreciated, and please leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. Have you been using this tripod yourself, or maybe another tripod you'd like to share information on? I'd love to hear from you. Comments go down below. And as always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Thank you very much, and until the next video, bye.